Here's Derek in Kensal Rise on the subject of immigration. Go ahead, Derek.
Oh, hello. Yeah, George, very quickly, I thought it was very, very beneath you in describing that last caller as having a thick skull. I mean, he had a fair argument with you. I thought he came out slightly the better, but we'll pass that by. Immigration. I feel you're flogging a dead horse now with immigration. I mean, I'd accept in the past immigration was a good thing, but now I think the tide's turned. I think people are gravely concerned at future population forecasts.
Is that your point, Derek?
Yeah.
Gravely concerned. Well, are they right to be gravely concerned, I suppose, is the issue, because there's a lot of populist trash talked about it, isn't there?
In what way?
Well, there are people who tell us that you can't get a council house for an immigrant. It's because an immigrant's got the council house that you can't get one, when we've already now established that there are hardly any immigrants at all in council houses.
Well, yeah, point taken. But I mean, let's look at the British populace. I mean, they're not, on the whole, they're not thick. I mean, when you think 18 months ago, George, who would have dreamed that we would have two British National Party Euro MPs and a Greater London Assembly member? I mean, so it shows that people are concerned, and rather than just...
Well, it shows that there are some people who can be fooled all of the time, or at least some of it.
A million people, George. I don't think so.
Are you a BNP supporter, Derek?
That's completely irrelevant, George.
Well, it might not be relevant, but it's a fair question, and the fact that you've given me the answer you've given me, you've really told me that you are.
Well, I wouldn't even tell my own wife who I vote for, George. That's why we've been together 15 years. But just going on to something which is relevant, I mean, when you think now we've got 6 million 16 to 24-year-olds out of work, people are working longer hours, there's more anxiety, there's more kids living below the poverty line. I wouldn't put that all on immigration, obviously not. It's this stupid government. But the benefits aren't there no more. It was in the past, I grant you, but I think we've come to a watershed now where we've got 65 million here.
No, we've got under 60 million here.
No, the illegals, about 5 million.
No, there's not 5 million illegals. That's racist. That's racist trash.
Oh, I'm a racist.
That's racist trash. Well,
I've got a stopwatch here, and my missus in the other room. She says I'll give it 1 minute before he calls you.
Well, it was 2 minutes and 49 seconds. Yeah, well, you are a racist and you are a BNP supporter, but you just don't have the guts. You just don't have the guts to say so.
Sure.
Well, where's your evidence? There's 5 million illegal immigrants in Britain.
George, I wish I had your superhuman powers. You can tell who I vote for.
I'm pretty certain who you vote for. But why don't you tell me where you got that figure of 5 million illegal immigrants?
George, you are disgraceful.
I'll tell you where you got it.
Yeah,
you got it from the BNP.
Oh, here we go.
Because that's exactly the figure that they use. And they don't give any evidence to support it either.
You insulted the last guy.
How do you know that there are 5 million illegal immigrants in Britain? Where do you get that from?
How do you know there's not?
Well, we might as well say there's 20 million then, because by definition, neither you nor I can know how many people are here illegally.
Let me give it my thought on it. I mean, illegal immigration, that's really quite irrelevant. It's a quarter of a million.
I told you I told you that the population was less than 60 million, and you said it was 65 million.
It's about 65,
and when I pointed out that you were wrong, you said there were 5 million illegal immigrants in Britain. Now, what's your evidence to support that?
Well, everything is evidence for you. Let me tell you something. The government says there's about 2 million. Anything they would say...
The government have not said it's about 2 million. The government have said what is plainly logical to say, that no one can know how many people are here illegally. By definition, if you knew that they were here illegally, well, you'd have thrown them out by now. Here's Susan in Harrogate on the same subject. Susan, welcome.
Hello, George.
Hi.
Hello. It's the first time I've heard your programme, and I have to say I'm quite astonished. But I'd like to ask you a question first before I get to my main point. If we need to target workers, we don't have the skills in this country. Of course, that's utterly appalling. But I suppose that's 12 years of a Labour government for you.
I know, it's a lot longer than that, Susan.
Is it?
Yeah, well, can I tell you something? Let me educate you. The person who went to the colonies and encouraged the people to come here to work for jobs that our people wouldn't do was a certain Enoch Powell when he was the Minister of Health in 1962.
Right. Can I just ask you, a lot of other countries, in fact, you meet a lot of Americans, for example, in London, and they're here on work permits. If we need to go abroad for people that we don't have in this country to work here, why does it have to come with a passport? Why can't it be a work permit?
It doesn't come with a passport. Do you think everybody that comes here to work gets a passport?
I think an awful lot of people come here for a passport,
But they don't get a passport. You've got to be here for about 10 years before you get a passport.
Well, can I ask you another question?
Yeah, but you're full of this misinformation, Susan.
Oh, well, I'm asking you a question you're telling me, so that's useful, isn't it?
I hope so.
May I ask you a question? How long has this point system been in place?
For about 10 years.
Has it?
Yes.
Well, the thing I don't understand is that every time somebody... I'm really thinking in reference to that teacher who phoned in earlier. I don't know how many teachers have had on because I had to turn the radio off. But the guy who mentioned Nigerian people living in his area.
Yes.
The thing that astonishes me is that you would attack him as a racist because he happened to mention he had Nigerian people living in his area. Now, if every time we have a discussion on immigration, if people are going to be accused of being racist...
Because the colour of the people is completely immaterial.
He didn't mention the colour of the people. He said, well,
Nigerians are all one colour, Susan.
Well,
I know that you're very concerned about immigration. It tells me that on the screen here.
Indeed, I am.
And yet in Harrogate there are virtually no immigrants.
No. Well, how is that? Why is that relevant? As you always say, we live in a big world with everyone on the move.
It is relevant because it makes me wonder why you're preoccupied by it when there are no immigrants in Harrogate.
Because I travel a lot. That's the first thing I do. I travel a lot for my job. I travel all over the country, everywhere. But why, whenever this conversation...
I'll tell you why.
Why is it closed down?
I'll tell you why.
Accusations of racism.
I'll tell you why, Susan. Because Through the Glass, working with me tonight and every Friday, is one of the smartest, coolest, blackest young men it's possible to imagine. And he works very hard, and he was born in Barking in Essex. But for many people, maybe you, maybe the man in Grays in Essex, he'll always be an immigrant, even though he isn't an immigrant.
How
he was
do you know
born
that?
here.
You don't know what I think.
Well,
why did you define him as being black? Why not just say he's a nice young man?
Because for the racists in our society, and there are some, he'll always be an immigrant, and his children will be immigrants, and their children will be immigrants. It's very unfortunate, but it happens to be the truth. And that's why the bringing up of the Nigerian origin, he supposed, of the people he sees around him, was irrelevant, dangerous, and inflammatory.
Well, may I ask you a question?
Well, you've asked me a lot, but go on.
If the people you're talking about come from Nigeria, how else should he describe them?
Well, they didn't come from Nigeria.
How do you know? How do you know?
But I know because Nigerians cannot come here unless Nigerians cannot come here unless they satisfy the points-based system. And it's very difficult. It's based on the needs of employers.
So why are they unemployed? Why are they
Well, they're not unemployed. Why do you think they're unemployed? Why do you infer that they were unemployed?
Because you said so.
I didn't say so. You see, you heard what you wanted to hear. Neither I nor the teacher in Grays in Essex said they were unemployed. He said there were lots of Nigerians in the schools in Grays in Essex. They're not even old enough to work yet, Susan. Never mind be unemployed. You just ask yourself why you, sitting in all-white Harrogate, are quite so het up about immigrants, and I think you'll be able to answer a question from me.